Today we're going to be bringing you our top 5 picks from Colubrid Fest for all the snakes that they had there. It's pretty close to us, so we made the drive out there this last Sunday. And honestly, this is something that I think could grow. So if you're in the area, I highly encourage you to check this out. It is specifically a show centering around Colubrids. That means no ball pythons. There's a lot that could have made this list, but I just really wanted to show off these specific ones. But without wasting any further time, let's go ahead and get right into the list. Starting off from both rare snakes on Instagram, and Colubrid and Colubroid would be the false water cobras, and they are outstanding. I've often dreamed of getting into a false water cobras, or at least owning one. And yes, it does share that cobra name, so you might be thinking, what in the heck is this guy doing free handling a cobra? Well, it is a mimic, and that means that it's not a cobra, but it is capable of mimicking that sort of flattening of the neck. And it does it quite well. In fact, it does it better than the cobra itself, considering that it's actually able to flatten its entire body like that. Now, these are mildly venomous. I've heard some people say that it is slightly more than, say, the hognoses, and I've heard some people say it's no more than the hognoses. I haven't done proper amount of research to weigh in myself, but I definitely would say it's nothing that's going to send you to the ER, unless you do have an allergic reaction, of course, which is always a possibility. So with that out of the way, why are these so awesome? Well, they're got these almost rattlesnakey type pattern to them. They're very good at mimicking, as I mentioned, so they try to just throw whatever they can at the board and see what sticks. But there's a lot of different morphs in these too, like these hypos and these lavender morphs right here, which is basically almost all grayish, whitish type snake. But I've always had kind of a soft spot for false water cobras. Again, it's a really cool, awesome looking snake that has a really crazy exotic type look to it that can do some cool cobra-like things without the death. That's always preferable, but it is really cool. Like I said, I've always kept my mind open for the possibility of really just having one. And honestly, till I came to this show, I didn't know of any morphs that can make them change colors and patterns and such like that, which is another great reason why this show was just so cool. It really gets me into seeing different things and really appreciating all of the other animals that are out there. So definitely a big thumbs up. I've always loved false water cobras, and seeing some different morphs in person for the first time was really a great treat. Coming in at number 4 from Envy Reptiles would be this white-sided Sonoran gopher snake. I really love just the contrast here and just what it's doing to each individual scale, especially on the dorsal. It is obviously a very white colored snake, which does a lot for anything that you really put on, and at that point you get this crazy amount of contrast, and you get this perfect little head cap where everything's just filled in with this nice little peachy goldenish type color, and then just starts sprinkling down the dorsal of this animal and just gets more and more thick and consistent as it gets down towards the tail. When you're about in the middle, it's very prevalent, but each little scale, each little fleck just keeps you guessing on to how much and where it's going to be. It's a really cool, unique little animal here. It absolutely stands out. In my brief research on these, I found that they are related, or cousins basically, of the bull snakes, which are really incredible, awesome animals themselves. We showed those off at our most recent Schaumburg NARBC show that we went to as well. Again, I just can't get over the perfect little head cap there too. It's the only thing on it that has any major symmetry, I guess is the proper word to it, other than of course the pattern of just getting more and more thick in terms of its little gold flecking as it gets down to the tail. Even how much it is, you know, you got a little bit here and there. It just looks like it's dripping in from down above and just hasn't reached its head yet. Almost like a hourglass with sand in it. I don't know how else better to describe it, but I absolutely just love the contrast on this. It's so incredible and stands out very, very well. And it definitely deserves a spot on our top 5. Coming in at number 3 from Meteoric Serpents would be this scaleless rat snake, nicknamed the Hourglass. Funny I mentioned the little sand timer earlier too. But wow, what an incredibly colorful, unique looking animal. There's so much to love here. Obviously, being a scaleless snake, as a ball python breeder, this is somewhat of a controversial thing for us, because scaleless ball pythons don't do very well, sadly, but scaleless rat snakes, they keep them really the same. They're really incredible looking animals. animals, and there's a lot of variety in them, but this one takes the cake. It looks like a watercolor painting in some ways. Honestly, it looks like something that Vincent van Gogh would have drawn up. Going down the back, I mean, this is a perfect tail right here. You have the front part of it, which is a little bit more light, with, yes, some darks to accent it. You've got more bold oranges, and then you've got these whites just kind of splotted in there with the blacks kind of behind it. It's almost like the sun going down, and as it gets more and more towards the tail, the sun begins to fade more and more. Maybe that is why it got its name, Hourglass. It looks like you have the sun just kind of coming here. It's against a black sky, hanging on as it starts to set with these nice orange sides. The little circles in here are far more bold. You do have all this white just kind of kicking up there too, like clouds in the night that you can barely still just see. And then as you get more down towards the tail of the snake, that black is definitely more potent, and the oranges are beginning to fade a little bit. In its place, you have smaller and smaller sun, as I was mentioning, kind of on these little circles that go down there until it's basically just gone right there at the tail. It's got so much variety to it. It almost looks like it's got like a calico-ish type look, at least from us ball python breeders. And again, I just can't get over it. Like near the top of the snake, this is a pretty much orange and black animal, and then the whites start to creep in, and then the blacks start to become more bold, and it just completely changes as it gets down more and more towards the dorsal. And that happens a lot, really, in a lot of snakes I see, but not all of them do it very equally. If you just saw the tail and the head of this animal next to each other, you would not be wrong in thinking this must belong to a different animal. I just can't get over these watercoloring type feels to it. It just looks like it jumped out of a Vincent van Gogh painting. It's certainly something to be envious of as a ball python breeder, because ball python scaleless snakes are extraordinary, but alas, it's incredibly difficult. But if you want to work a scaleless animal that doesn't have any of those issues, look no further, because this is absolutely extraordinary, and they're definitely more available. At number 2, this is the first time we've had 3 different breeders with animals that we want to show, but from the exotic empire, Flynn reptiles and Zirkel reptiles would be these king rat snakes, or specifically the Chinese king rat snakes. Before we get started, I kind of want to show you what a king rat snake is going to look like as a baby. You can kind of see it up here. I don't think we ever had a full-on shot, but they kind of just look like a tannish wet sand in a way. But boy, oh boy, does it grow into something absolutely out of this world. From that to this. That is incredible. The blacks and yellows just come together so perfectly. It's a dark black, but it has these electric lightning bolts just shooting down it. The face itself just looks incredibly exotic. It looks viper-like, and vipers are some of the most beautiful animals ever. There's a lot to love about this, but even just the head pattern is just so absolutely incredible. And look at it react and be curious and thoughtful here. What an intelligent animal. The scales are just so awesome, like dragon scales. They're extraordinary, and they feel much different than many other snakes. Feels like studded leather. But wouldn't you know it, there's a lot of morphs for these too, like these hypos from Flynn reptiles. And again, these are babies, so imagine what these are going to do when they grow up. Really extraordinary and exciting looking animals. Or the albino morph. Albino is incredibly unique here. It looks kind of like a banana morph for bull python. You get these lavenders and yellows kind of coming in, and again, it has that nice little splash of coloring throughout it. Very lightning bolt like. I really like this animal because I really like the banana morphs and such, and it really captures that in my opinion. Here's another one here. This one actually has more reddish type eyes as well, but similar coloring. Like I said, it kind of gives that banana-ish type look to it on top of everything. They're just so colorful and unique looking, from their scales all the way down to their definite glow up. This is an extraordinary animal. It still reaches a really reasonable size for just about any keeper in my opinion. Now, before we get to our number 1 pick, I wanted to go over some honorable mentions. For our first honorable mention from the exotic empire would be this Thai bamboo rat snake. And I just really love the contrast all throughout. It is a deep orange throughout the whole animal, other than a very nice white belly. And then 2 stripes going down the entire animal that are just pitch black, like someone took a Sharpie down the back, creating this path. And of course, the lines just come perfectly right out of the eyes. The only deviation from the 2 lines is just that line kind of down the middle of its head there. It's just so sharp. Just a beautiful animal all throughout. Our next honorable mention comes to us from Bear Creek Herp, would be this West Langtree gray banded king snake. And I've seen some gray banded king snakes before, but this is one of the more beautiful ones I've ever seen. I love the color orange, and this gunmetal gray is just so beautiful. On top of that, you've got nice bold blacks and these whites just creeping up throughout of it like a calico type morph kind of coming in. in. This is the sort of thing that you see and you're just stunned by its absolute beauty. Like I said, these grays are one of the perfect hues of gray. I absolutely love when they look just like this. The whites coming in really just serve to call that out. You have contrast upon contrast with this animal. The oranges are consistent and bold, but then you have a Sharpie black that just serves to, again, create that border. And then you have these whites sprinkled throughout it and a very speckled, kind of chaotic gray. Everything is clean up until you get to that gray, which is just kind of floating in there in between these whites, just almost like it's being kept in a little bottle across the snake's back. Just very beautiful. What a treat to look at something like this. And for our final honorable mention would be one that, if it hadn't already won number one on our last list, it would be vying for number one on this one, because I absolutely love and have absolutely fallen heads over heels with these African house snakes. Most of them are the Cape house snake variety. There are so many things to love about them. They're personable. Other than when they're babies, they are slow moving for the most part. They are very handleable. They're wonderful eaters. They eat anything, whether it's frozen thawed or live, and they are the perfect eaters. And they're smart as heck. I don't know how to describe it, but there is a level of intelligence to these animals, specifically, especially my hypo girl that I got from the Schaumburg show. She is interacting with me. She's curious. She's very hungry, but she knows the difference between me and food. The way they move too is very mamba-like, and well, it's because they're actually more related to mambas and cobras than they are really anything else, but they're not venomous. So that's kind of nice, right? But that's not to account for just how personable they are. There's a whole bunch of morphs. If this sounds like I'm describing when somebody found out that ball pythons were wonderful pets and wonderful breeding projects, well, I am doing that. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it, because there's so many different morphs that they already have and nobody's combined all of them yet. Like this marble morph, it really reminds me of the monsoon. Just look at the head here to see what I'm talking about. But of course they get it right at the beginning of their journey of getting all of this. I feel like this is really the next big thing. They're extraordinary. I can think of very little cons to this animal. They can be kept much easier than most reptiles I can think of. They're relaxed. They're easily handleable. I guess the only thing is just when they're very little babies, they can be pretty fast. So just make sure you're careful. Here's another view of this marble from the side, just kind of show you the contrast there. Now imagine now getting this morph and combining it with albino. I've got some of the regular albinos, the T plus ones. There's three different lines, the T plus, the T negative, and their line, the Bushveld. And on that, I got two more. The ones that I picked up would be another albino, female this time though. She is a T plus albino, so that I can eventually produce these wonderfully beautiful animals. And then I got a hypo green male, which is kind of like a designer morph. It is very nice. I love the color green. So these look like a kind of deep evergreen type color, especially as they age and such. I'm incredibly excited for that. And that's a boy, so he could eventually pair with my hypo. This is the individual that I actually picked up right here. It's kind of got like an olive green type look to it right now. He is gorgeous. There's just so much to love about these animals. And again, very handleable. It's not too fast, not too flighty. You can just keep it in your hand and very easily handle this animal. Here's another one here. It's a combination of albino and the blue eye morph, which kind of creates this almost snow-like look to it. A peachy-ish look, if you will. Like I said, there are so many different morphs of this beautiful, wonderful species. So definitely check out African house snakes and check out Bushveld reptiles for the extraordinary animals that they have. And then finally, at number one would be the snakes that I grew up with. And that would be the gardener snake, or specifically the California red-sided garter snake here. There's so much to unpack here. The first thing that catches my eye is this electric blue. And when I say blue, I'm not talking a bluish. That is blue. It is a chameleon in snake form. The coloring is just out of this world. Beautiful. It's just so gorgeous with these blues going down the dorsal of it. Sitting here in a coil, honestly, it's almost like an optical illusion, just where it begins and ends. And then let's go back to these sides here. I don't know if it's just me, but these red sides and the black bars that come down below it, it feels like there's a brick wall behind these black bars. And everything is so potent here, and I love contrast. So this is one of the most extraordinarily beautiful animals I've ever seen. Like I said, the contrast for the blue is just pops. You've got deep blacks to bring it all in, to help contrast everything too, to border that and embolden and call attention to everything around it. And boy, does it call attention to everything around it. Because right underneath that, the blacks just kind of leak out these perfect little bars going across, and behind that bar, it's not just one color. Like, look at that. It literally gives the optical illusion that there's some sort of like brick wall behind it, because each one of these little egg-like red dots is bordered with a cream color. This might be the most contrasting looking snake I think I've seen. Gardeners are actually a communal snake, meaning that you can keep a few of them together even. In the wild, they're observed working together. So a big colony of these snakes might send one scout out when they want to move dens, travel out and about, and you can quite literally see videos of all of the other snakes peeking out of their little hide, watching this brave soldier taking the chance to go out there so that the whole herd doesn't possibly come to ruin. That's a awesome amount of intelligence there, on top of the fact that this thing is just so beautiful. The more I see it, the more I just wish I had a colony of garter snakes that looked like this. And that is why I had to make it our #1 pick, because it is absolutely an electric looking animal. We hope you enjoyed the animals we showed you here from Colubrid Fest of 2025 in Fort Wayne. If you liked this video, check out our full walkthrough of the entire show that we just released right here, where you can see everything from the very, very beginning to the very, very end, as if you were there yourself.